From WrestleMania gems such as the Firefly Funhouse and Boneyard matches to some that weren't as good, such as the Backlot Brawl and the Wyatt Swamp fight, WWE certainly put on plenty of interesting and cinematic matches, as we would call it in the wrestling universe, in the year of 2020. Wow, what a year that was. The question is, which were the best, which were the worst, and how do they rank in between? What is up, phenomenal fans? I am here today to rank every WWE cinematic match in 2020 from worst to best. And again, this video is definitely subjective, so try not to light anything on fire. Let me know what you think in the comments below if your opinion differs from mine. Let me know what you think were the best, the worst, all of the rankings from 1 through 8, because I've got 8 matches on here that I'm shaking my camera. I've got 8 matches on here that I'd consider cinematic. There are some things on there such as the greatest wrestling match ever between Edge and Randy Orton, but that's not really cinematic. It was pre-filmed and edited a little bit, but it didn't actually have like the cinematic feel to it. So I've got 8 matches on here, and let's get into the list. So coming in at number 8, I've got the Wyatt Swamp fight between Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman from the horror show at Extreme Rules. And this had a good story behind it. Braun Strowman was in the midst of facing the 3 faces of Bray Wyatt. He had faced the Firefly Bray Wyatt. This match faced Cult Leader Bray, who made a good return, which is very nice to see. And then he'd go on to face The Fiend at SummerSlam for the Universal title. But something about this just didn't click. I don't know if it was the fact that it was just like slow, and that was kind of the point. It was slow and it was just like in the swamp. And I think I remember a guy getting lit on fire, which you love to see, but something about this just didn't click. Like, especially, I haven't watched this match back or anything, but thinking back to it, I can just remember a part that felt like forever, where Braun is like tied to a chair and Bray is just, you know, doing old Cult Leader Bray stuff, you know, in the meta. I'm not even gonna. So as Bray Wyatt would say, he was just cutting some old school Bray Wyatt promos on Braun, but it felt like ages, and something about it just didn't click. I think The Fiend made an appearance. I think The Fiend murdered Braun Strowman underwater, but then Braun Strowman came back with just a shaved head. But again, I don't know. It wasn't like the worst thing ever. There wasn't really a horrible cinematic match. They all are different in their own unique way, I guess. So yeah, of the 8 though, this one, if I had to go back and rewatch any of them, this one would probably be the one that I'd least want to rewatch. So there it is, number 8. Coming in at number 7, what do I want to call this? Do I want to call it a match or what? It was that whole Street Profits and Viking Raiders thing. Yes, the one with the ninjas. So right, let's try and digest this real quick. This was around the time where the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders, you know, former War Machine, the War Raiders, 2 of the most dominant guys, you know, in the world of wrestling, 2 of the scariest looking men together, one of the most dominant tag teams in the world today. They were bowling, and they were doing archery, and I honestly don't remember what else there was, nor do I really want to. I remember lots of flying turkey legs. I remember Ivar being cute, but Eric not so much. Sorry, Eric, justice for Eric 2021. But this was in the midst of that feud, and we thought we were going to get a match. I think they hyped it up as a Raw Tag title match for Backlash, but no. And again, I didn't take any notes on these matches, so hopefully I can remember a lot of them. From what I remember, there was lots of callbacks to the bowling, to the archery, to, like, the ninja stuff, foreshadowing the real ninjas, like, some old school, like, armor and, like, swords, and I don't know. But yeah, essentially this was something. There was a couple good spots, I remember. I remember Angelo did a spear, I think. I don't know who he speared through, but somebody got speared through, like, a glass door. It was very good. I think there was a spot involving a car. But then ninjas got involved. Yes, that is right. Akira Tozawa came in, which, alright, this is already weird. Might as well throw Tozawa in there. Tozawa's a pretty funny guy. And then Tozawa had a cult of ninjas. Now I think I'm losing my mind. And then we had the Big Ninja. Yes, that is future Raw Tag Team Champion Omos for you. But yeah, and I think I remember, I don't think the ninjas were in the dumpster, but it ended with everybody just in a dumpster. And there you have it. So that's all I remember. Something that I don't really want to go back and rewatch, but it's just something that's in the back of my head. When you think back to the pandemic days, the Performance Center days, you think of the Street Profits, and you think of the Viking Raiders eating flying turkey legs. Coming in at number 6, and this is a bit of a controversial one, it's going to be Adam Cole versus the Velveteen Dream in what was a Backlot Brawl. I think it was a last chance Backlot Brawl for Velveteen Dream to challenge for the NXT title. It was just essentially a backstage brawl, but outside, and it was for the NXT title, and it was at TakeOver. So right, this is the definition of WWE thinking we have to have a cinematic match on every pay-per-view. Could you think this was, I think TakeOver was in June. I don't remember if it was before or after Backlash, but you had both nights of WrestleMania, you had a cinematic match. You had the Money in the Bank ladder match, which was cinematic. At Backlash, you had that Street Profits Viking Raiders thing. NXT was like, okay, let's give it a go. Which one of our matches can be cinematic in some way? And it just should not have been a cinematic type match. It wasn't really cinematic like the Firefly Funhouse match or the Boneyard match or even the Money in the Bank match was. It was more just a heavily edited brawl, essentially. And on paper, it's a cool idea, you know, it's at nighttime, it's dark, it's scary, you know, the only lighting is from the cars that are circling, you know, people are getting thrown through windows, through windshields, you know, there's weapons, you know, there's a ring just sitting in a parking lot. But it just like the Wyatt Swamp fight, this one just didn't click. Especially when you're thinking of a guy like Velveteen Dream, who obviously, you know, all of the controversial things involving Velveteen Dream, the reason why he got released a number of weeks ago, all of that aside, Velveteen Dream is a very entertaining and charismatic performer. This was like the last thing that Velveteen Dream should have been doing. And this was just so not NXT. I don't know, it's not a bad idea on paper. Like, when I think of this, I think back to AEW. They did a parking lot brawl thing. I think it was LAX, Santana and Ortiz against Best Friends. That was incredible. But Adam Cole and Velveteen Dream didn't need to be a backlot brawl. You could have picked two hardcore guys, or you could have done it on the main roster in some way, shape, or form. Either way, this just didn't click, and it comes in at number 6. Number 5, and I feel like this might be the last one on the list of, like, in order of, like, when it happened. We're going to SmackDown. We're going to the P feud. Yes, this feud, the drug testing and the urine testing and that stuff. This is Sheamus and Jeff Hardy in that bar fight. And this is one that I kind of forgot about. And this is when we start to get on the up, because the other 3 didn't click for me. This bar fight, it may not have been the best, but it was entertaining in a sense. It was nice. It wasn't like a super cinematic, like, kind of like how, again, the Firefly Funhouse, we'll get to that later, was. In the sense that it's basically like a movie. There's more of this is just a brawl in a bar with a couple little cinematic elements. I think Jeff Hardy magically transformed into face-painted Jeff Hardy, did a big Swanton bomb. But other than that, it was sort of just, you know, a pre-recorded, edited down a little bit, little brawl. You know, I think Sheamus had his little beer guy there. And it was the culmination of a very weird and not so good feud. But at least it had a pretty entertaining ending. I mean, I was in a hotel room, and I was sitting there watching 2 guys fight in a bar. It doesn't get much better than that. So there you have it, Sheamus and Jeff Hardy in the bar fight, coming in at number 5. Number 4, and I think this one may be the most controversial match on the list. One that people either really loved or really hated. We're going all the way back, what's the date on this? April the 8th of 2020 on NXT, and this was one final beat. This was Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. So this was, for me, I don't know, I enjoyed this. It wasn't like the best thing ever, it wasn't anything crazy. It certainly wasn't the best things that Gargano and Ciampa have done together. They've done a lot better in the past, but you could, like, feel the tension. I think this may have been before WrestleMania, April 8th. It may have been right around the time of WrestleMania, if the dates are right on this piece of paper that I wrote down. But this was one of the first times in wrestling that we had done something that wasn't, you know, inside the Performance Center, inside of wherever AEW did their thing. It was the first cinematic thing that we've seen in wrestling, at least it could have been. For me, I mean, they had the tension, so you can believe that Gargano and Ciampa would realistically want to tear each other apart, you know, in front of nobody, just to tear each other apart. Any other feud, I probably wouldn't have been invested, but at least for Gargano Ciampa, you believe it, and you believe they want to just rip each other apart, so that's why, you know, I didn't hate this. And it did have a weird ending. I think this was when Candice LeRae turned heel, because Gargano had just turned heel against Ciampa. So you had the odd pairing of Ciampa as the face and Gargano as the heel. Candice LeRae turned heel on Ciampa, realigned herself with Johnny Gargano. And, okay. So as long as this isn't the last chapter or the final beat, as they would say, in this rivalry, I don't want to see them fight each other in the next, like, year or two. But eventually, we need to, like, definitively close the chapter without it, you know, being a weird 30-plus minute brawl that I think they went on top of a truck at one point. They just brawled in an empty ring. There's some very brutal spots in it. I'm not taking away from it. But I feel like we should have it end with Ciampa as the heel, Gargano as the face, and Gargano winning. And, you know, there's your rivalry culmination of one of the best rivalries of the decade. But Gargano Ciampa coming in at number 4. And with number 3, we're going up to the tiers of cinematic matches that were super, super good. Nothing against these other ones, especially the middle few, like the Sheamus, Jeff Hardy, the Gargano Ciampa. Those were good. They weren't insanely spectacular, but those were definitely entertaining in their own right, and I found a way to enjoy it. But these top three are when it certainly gets into what on earth did I just watch, and why did I love it so much? The art of cinematic wrestling. That's right, because number 3 is going to be the combination of both the men's and the women's Money in the Bank ladder matches from this year, where they had to climb the corporate tower, they had to climb Titan Towers, they had to climb to get the briefcase. So yeah, they started out in the lobby, they fought through the gym, they worked their way up. I think there were some cameos from like Brother Love and some other people, but this was just entertaining. And these top 3 matches on here are probably the only 3 that I particularly, if I had time, I'd go back and rewatch them and find them enjoyable, because it was just so funny. There are some good spots in there. There was like table spots. I think Nia powerbombed somebody through like the food court table. I remember Paul Heyman being in there at some point. And of course you had AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan fighting in Vince McMahon's office. We got to see the dinosaur head. And then Otis won the match, which was fun at the time. And then Otis did nothing and then lost the briefcase to The Miz. So it was all pointless in the end, but during the match, during the time, it was hilarious and also kind of heartwarming to see Otis win the match by accident. Couldn't climb the ladder. And this was just very enjoyable. Again, with Money in the Bank this year being in front of a crowd, it's going to be nice, but you know, you can't go wrong with them just climbing the freaking headquarters. And man, these top 2, I know you know which matches they are, and I sat there for like 10 minutes debating, because genuinely, I don't prefer one to the other. We're talking about the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match, both of which came from WrestleMania, both of which were a solid 10 out of 10, and I genuinely don't prefer one to the other. So this ranking doesn't mean that, oh, I like both of them, but I like number 1 a little bit more than number 2. No, they're genuinely equal for me. But for the sake of this video, I decided to go by the logic of, if I had to go back right now, and I only could rewatch one of them right this minute, which one would I rewatch? And that's how we decided number 1 from number 2, who's just right there. But again, they're equal. So time to ruffle some feathers, time to get the debates in the comments. Which one's better, the Boneyard match or the Firefly Funhouse match? Again, I'm going to say this at number 2, but then I'm going to tell you about how good it was and about how much I didn't think number 1 was better than 2, but I also don't think number 2 is better than 1, because they're both equal. It's just, maybe because I've seen number 2 a couple of times, I've seen it multiple times, so maybe that's why number 1 is a little bit higher, just because I'd go back and I'd rewatch that. But anyways, without further ado, number 2, The Undertaker versus AJ Styles in the Boneyard match from WrestleMania 36, Night 1. I mean, what else do I say? The fact that the rivalry was so personal, it got to, you know, Mark Calloway versus Alan Jones rather than The Undertaker versus AJ Styles. What do I say? If you're watching this video, I know for a fact that you've seen the Boneyard match and you've seen the Firefly Funhouse match, so you know what I'm talking about. I mean, The Undertaker literally burying Gallows and Anderson, sending them to Impact Wrestling a few months later. And the ending, AJ Styles' glove, you can see it up there. AJ Styles' glove being over the, you know, over the grave. He literally buried AJ Styles alive. He murdered Alan Jones on live television. It wasn't really live, but, you know, it was on live television in front of millions of people. And then Styles came back like a month later, but we don't talk about that. But I mean, I don't really have anything else to add other than it's the Boneyard match. It is, without a doubt, one of the highlights in 2020 of WWE. This is right around the time when the pandemic sort of started getting started. It was in April time, so, you know, the world was catching fire. You know, we have this new virus. We've been quarantined for about a month now. It looks like we're never going to get out. I mean, we're still stuck sort of in it, you know, over a year later. But, you know, the world was catching fire, but we had the Boneyard match there, and for about 20 minutes, I forgot the world was catching fire, and I watched two men try and murder each other. And by default, number 1, the Firefly Funhouse match, Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. And again, just like the Boneyard match, what on earth do I say? I'm surprised that I haven't rewatched this full match yet, and eventually I'm gonna rewatch it again. I genuinely have no words. It was the Firefly Funhouse match. It was Bray Wyatt taking John Cena through all of his eras, from ruthless aggression to the feud with Bray Wyatt himself, to the possibility of Cena turning heel, the idea of John Cena joining the NWO, becoming the Hogan for life and all that good stuff in the New World Order. And he got rid of John Cena. We're yet to see John Cena. Since John Cena has died, John Cena never existed. He's been erased, and it was all because of The Fiend. But yeah, even much more so than the Boneyard match, I don't have anything to say. If you're watching this video, I know you've seen the Firefly Funhouse match. You've probably seen it multiple times, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was not a match. It was certainly the farthest thing from a wrestling match you can get in the world of wrestling, but yet it was so perfect. And this is what makes both the Firefly Funhouse and the Boneyard match even better, because they are both so different, but yet they're both so incredible. And because they were so different, instead of one being above the other, they both are on two opposite, you know, totem poles. They're both number one opposite, rather than one being underneath the other. So that is my ranking of the cinematic matches in 2020, and thank you guys for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. Content like this, if you guys want to see me do more rank type videos, I genuinely enjoyed filming this video, you know, editing this video, thinking of this video, but it was genuinely lots of fun. So if you want to see more, then, you know, hit the like button, let me know in the comments below some ideas, and I'll certainly do it. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. Videos like this, reactions videos, predictions videos. I made a couple videos on the AEW pay-per-view a few days ago, so you can check that out. Thank you guys for watching. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you guys in the next one.